Every year, millions of hard drives are thrown away. Most of them contain nothing but forgotten data. But sometimes, one of them holds a fortune hidden inside thousands of bitcoins. This is the story of the hard drive buried beneath a landfill.
The wind moved slowly across the endless landfill. Plastic bags drifted through the cold night air, fluttering like silent ghosts above mountains of broken machines. Old computers, shattered monitors, and tangled cables stretched as far as the eye could see. In the distance, the faint glow of the city lights flickered beneath a blanket of fog. No one came here. No one searched this place. To the world, it was nothing more than a graveyard of forgotten technology. But buried somewhere beneath this ocean of electronic waste was something worth more than anyone could imagine. As the wind grew stronger, loose papers and polythene bags lifted into the air, swirling above the piles of scrap metal and plastic. And then, for a brief moment, a faint green light appeared beneath the trash, hidden between rusted circuit boards and broken hard drives. Something began to glow. A single hard drive. Half buried, silent, waiting. Years ago, this small device had been thrown away like useless junk. No one noticed when it disappeared into the mountains of garbage. But inside that forgotten piece of metal and silicon was a digital key. A key connected to thousands of bitcoins. Back then, they were almost worthless. Just numbers on a screen. But time changed everything. Today, those coins were worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And now, that fortune was buried somewhere under this landfill. Lost, forgotten, or perhaps waiting for someone to find it. The wind howled again across the dark wasteland. Plastic bags drifted slowly through the air, and beneath the trash, the green glow of the hard drive flickered once more. The secret was still there, hidden in the darkness, waiting. Years before that hard drive was buried beneath this mountain of waste. It sat quietly inside a small apartment. The room belonged to a young software developer named Daniel. His apartment was small, cluttered with cables, computer parts, and old monitors stacked against the walls. The faint hum of computer fans filled the room day and night. Daniel wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. But he was fascinated by something almost nobody understood at the time. A strange digital experiment called Bitcoin. Back then, very few people believed it had any real value. Some called it a joke, others called it a scam. But Daniel saw something different. He believed it was the future. Every night after finishing his freelance work, Daniel would sit in front of his computer and run a small program in the background. The program solved complex mathematical problems, and every time it succeeded, a reward appeared in his digital wallet. Bitcoin. At first it was just a few coins, then a few hundred, then thousands. Back in those days, mining Bitcoin was easy. A normal computer could do it. Daniel kept all of his coins inside a simple wallet file stored on a small, external hard drive. To him, it was nothing special, just a backup. Something he could plug in if he ever needed it. At the time, the coins were worth very little, maybe a few $100s in total. So Daniel didn't think much about it. He placed the hard drive inside a drawer next to his desk and slowly forgot about it. Months passed, then years. The world outside began to change. Bitcoin started appearing in news articles. Investors started talking about it. The price began to rise. $10. $50, $100, and Daniel still had no idea that the small black hard drive sitting quietly in his drawer was becoming more valuable with every passing day. But the moment that would change everything was already on its way, because one ordinary morning, Daniel decided to clean his apartment. The morning Daniel decided to clean his apartment seemed completely ordinary. Sunlight pushed through the dusty window as he looked around the room. Old computer parts were stacked in every corner. Broken cables, outdated keyboards, and useless hardware-filled boxes and drawers. It had been years since he last organized anything. So that morning, Daniel decided it was finally time. He started slowly. First the old papers, then broken computer parts, then the drawers. Inside one drawer, he found a small pile of old electronics, USB drives, cables, and 2 small external hard drives. One of them still worked. The other one was old, scratched, and dusty. Daniel stared at it for a moment. He tried to remember what it was for, but nothing came to mind. Years had passed since he had used it. To him, it looked like just another useless piece of outdated hardware, so he placed it inside a box with the rest of the junk. Outside his apartment building, a large trash container sat near the street. It was already filled with old furniture, bags of garbage, and broken appliances. Daniel carried the box downstairs without thinking twice. One by one, he threw the items into the container. Old cables, broken keyboard, dead computer parts. Then finally, the small black hard drive. It landed with a dull metallic sound somewhere beneath the trash. Daniel didn't notice. He closed the lid of the container and walked back upstairs. Inside the apartment, he finished cleaning the room and felt satisfied. The clutter was gone. Everything looked neat again. To him, it was just another productive day. But what Daniel didn't realize was that inside that trash container was the only key to his digital fortune. Thousands of bitcoins locked inside that hard drive. At the time, they were still worth almost nothing. So the world moved on. Hours later, the garbage truck arrived. The container was lifted. The trash was crushed. And the small black hard drive disappeared forever into the darkness of the city landfill, buried under tons of waste, lost, forgotten, or so it seemed, because years later, Daniel would discover the truth. And by then, that tiny hard drive would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Several years passed. Life moved on the way it always does. Daniel continued working as a developer. New projects came and went. Technology evolved. New gadgets replaced old ones. And somewhere deep beneath the massive landfill outside the city, the small black hard drive remained buried in darkness, silent, forgotten. But the world outside was changing faster than anyone expected. News about Bitcoin began spreading everywhere. At first, Daniel barely paid attention. He had heard about it before. After all, he had experimented with it years ago. But he assumed it was just another short-lived internet trend. Then one evening, everything changed. Daniel was scrolling through news on his laptop when a headline caught his attention. Bitcoin surges past $10,000. He froze. For a moment, he simply stared at the screen. $10,000 for a single Bitcoin. His mind immediately started racing. A strange feeling began to grow in his chest, because suddenly, a distant memory started returning. Years ago, late nights in front of glowing computer screens, mining software running quietly in the background, a digital wallet, and thousands of coins. Daniel quickly opened an old folder on his computer. He searched through backups, old files, and archived data. Nothing. The wallet wasn't there. Then another memory surfaced. A drawer, a small external hard drive. His heart started beating faster. Daniel stood up from his chair. He rushed to the desk where the drawer used to hold his old electronics. But the drawer was empty. That was when the realization hit him. Like a sudden wave crashing into his mind. The hard drive. The one he had thrown away during the apartment cleanup years ago. Daniel slowly sat down again, staring at the floor in silence. He began calculating in his head. 7,500 bitcoins, at $10,000 each. That meant $75 million. And the price was still rising. His breathing grew heavier. The room felt smaller, the air colder. Somewhere under the city, buried beneath mountains of trash, was a hard drive containing a fortune. His fortune. And suddenly, Daniel understood something terrifying. He knew exactly where it had gone. The landfill. Miles and miles of garbage. Years of waste piled on top of it. But even then, Daniel refused to believe it was truly gone. Because if that hard drive still existed somewhere under that landfill, then the greatest lost treasure of the digital age might still be waiting to be found. Daniel stood silently at the edge of the landfill. The cold wind swept across the endless hills of trash, carrying with it the sound of rustling plastic and distant machinery. Bulldozers moved slowly in the distance, pushing new mountains of garbage onto the growing pile. Every single day, the landfill became larger, and every single day, the hard drive sank deeper beneath it, somewhere under thousands of tons of waste. Buried under years of forgotten technology was the small black device that held Daniel's fortune. A simple hard drive, no bigger than a human hand, yet inside it was the key to thousands of bitcoins. A digital treasure worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Daniel had tried everything. He spoke with engineers. He hired data recovery specialists. He even designed an ambitious plan to excavate the landfill using advanced scanning equipment and artificial intelligence. His proposal promised something extraordinary. If the hard drive was recovered, a large portion of the money would be donated to the city, schools, hospitals, public projects, millions of dollars that could change lives. But the city officials remained cautious. Excavating a landfill was dangerous. Toxic gases, unstable ground, environmental risks, and the possibility that the hard drive might already be destroyed. So the requests were delayed. Meetings continued. Documents were reviewed. But time kept moving forward. Meanwhile, the value of Bitcoin continued to rise. The fortune inside that buried wallet kept growing larger and larger with every passing year. A lost treasure, becoming more valuable every day. And still, no one knew exactly where the hard drive was. Somewhere beneath that massive landfill, hidden in the darkness, it might still exist. Or perhaps it had already been crushed long ago by the weight of thousands of tons of garbage. No one could say for certain. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the horizon, the landfill became darker. Plastic bags drifted across the wind like silent shadows. And Daniel stood there staring across the endless sea of trash, because somewhere beneath it might still lie the greatest lost fortune of the digital age, waiting, buried, and hidden from the world.